Okay, so today we've got a real-world medical detective story for you. It's all about a disease that, let's be honest, most of us probably think of as a thing of the past. Whooping cough. But what happens when it suddenly pops up again, in a community that's supposed to be immune? Well, we're going to break down this incredible investigation from Burkina Faso to figure that out.
And really, this whole case boils down to one huge question. What happens when a population that's supposed to be vaccinated gets sick anyway? And as you're about to see, the answer is way more complicated than you might think.
Just to give you some scale here, 24.1 million. That's how many whooping cough cases were estimated in just 1 year among kids under 5 globally. So, this is not some minor cold. It's a serious, persistent threat. And that's what makes the story we're about to tell so darn puzzling.
All right, so let's get on the same page. What exactly is pertussis, or whooping cough? Well, it's this really nasty respiratory infection. It's super contagious. It just spreads through the air in tiny droplets when someone coughs or sneezes. And the little bug that causes all this trouble is a bacterium called Bordetella pertussis.
Okay, so now that we have that big picture, let's zoom way in, all the way to a single school in Burkina Faso, because that's where this whole medical mystery really kicks off.
The scene is set, April 2019. An alert goes out from the Sabo Health District. Something is definitely up at one of the local primary schools. A whole bunch of kids are getting sick with this really bad cough, and it's spreading fast.
So, the investigation starts to zero in on what they call the index patient, the first one they identified. It's a 13-year-old girl, and she has all the classic symptoms: a severe cough, fever, vomiting. But when the health officials ask about her vaccination history, they hit a brick wall: no vaccination card. And that little missing piece of paper, it's going to turn out to be a really crucial clue.
Okay, so the alarm has been raised. Time for the epidemiological detectives to get to work. Let's look at exactly how they went about tracking this outbreak.
They had this really methodical 3-step process. First things first, they had to define their terms. What exactly counts as a suspected case versus a confirmed one? You got to be strict about that. Second, they hit the ground running, gathering patient info and, this is key, taking swabs from everyone's throat and nose. And third, all those swabs went off to the lab for some super high-tech analysis. We're talking advanced PCR tests that could screen for 33 different pathogens all at the same time. Pretty amazing stuff.
Now, this is really important. For an investigation like this, a hunch just doesn't cut it. The gold standard, the only thing that really counted, was a laboratory-confirmed case. That meant you had to meet the case definition, and the Bordetella bacterium had to actually show up on that PCR test. No test, no confirmed case. Simple as that.
So, with all their methods in place, the data started to pour in. And what it showed, well, some of it was what you'd expect, but some of it was actually pretty surprising.
So the first big number that jumps out is the attack rate, 18.4%. I mean, think about that. That means almost 1 out of every 5 students in these schools got sick. It just shows you how explosively this thing ripped through the classrooms.
All told, they identified 92 kids as suspected cases. The average age was around 9 years old. And while a cough was universal, everyone had one, the other symptoms could get really severe. We're talking kids coughing so hard they would vomit, and in some cases, it even caused burst blood vessels in their eyes. Just brutal.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. When the researchers started crunching all the numbers, one symptom really stood out. You'd think it would be something dramatic like that post-cough vomiting, right? But no, it was actually a sore throat. A student with a sore throat was a whopping 3.5 times more likely to have a lab-confirmed case of pertussis. Who would have thought?
And just when you think you've got it figured out, the picture gets even murkier. Those fancy lab tests, they revealed it wasn't just whooping cough. Nope. A lot of these kids were fighting off multiple infections at the same time. More than half also had other common bacteria, like strep pneumoniae or Haemophilus influenzae. It was like a complex biological assault, not just one simple bad guy.
And all of this, it brings us right to the heart of the mystery. This is the central puzzle that makes this whole case so important. Let's just call it the vaccination paradox.
The study itself actually points right at this paradox. The authors say, hey, we've seen pertussis epidemics pop up in schools before, even in places with really high vaccination rates. So what gives? The main suspect, they say, is something called waning immunity.
And here's the number that really seals the deal on this being a paradox. According to official records for that area, the vaccination coverage for the pentavalent vaccine, that's the one that protects against whooping cough, was an estimated 96.1%. That's an incredible number. So why on earth was there an outbreak?
Well, part of the answer brings us right back to that missing vaccination card. For almost 72% of the sick kids, their official vaccination status was just unknown. Why? No written proof. And this points to a massive challenge for public health everywhere. I mean, how are you supposed to confirm immunity if you can't even track who got what shot?
So, the most likely explanation here seems to be a combination of things. The protection kids get from that first series of shots, it's really strong for the first few years. But, and this is a big but, it doesn't last forever. By the time they get to be adolescents, like our 13-year-old index patient, that protection can start to fade. And what that does is it creates this pool of susceptible older kids and adults who can get sick, maybe not even that sick, and then pass it on to others. They become a kind of hidden reservoir for the disease.
This investigation in just 2 villages in Burkina Faso, it's so much more than a local story. It actually holds a really critical lesson for public health all over the world.
So, what's the big takeaway? The researchers laid out a pretty clear path forward. First, we got to reinforce immunization programs, especially in rural areas. Second, we need to actively find ways to fight that waning immunity, maybe with a booster shot for kids before they even start school. And third, we need to use these incredible lab tests to respond to outbreaks way faster and with more precision.
And that really leaves us with a pretty sobering final thought. This outbreak is just such a powerful reminder that even when we think we have things under control, even with high vaccination rates, these forgotten diseases can come roaring back. It forces us to ask a really tough question. Are our health systems actually prepared for that? Something to think about. That's all for this one. Thanks for tuning in.